So today's video is about self-refinement, and also the question is, so many people have this question: why am I doing so much? I'm eating healthy, I'm vegetarian, I'm putting so much effort, I'm stretching my body in yoga postures every day, I'm very disciplined, I read books, I connect or try to meditate on the presence of higher beings or spiritual beings. And many of these people have spent decades, and sometimes their entire life, or many lives maybe even, in search of that, philosophic stone, in search of that truth, that enlightenment, that self-realization, that, that something, that secret, that gem of spiritual knowledge, self-realization, spiritual power, and yet the result is zero. And so this is the question which I would like to address today, and the answer is quite simple. The answer is that cherry on the top, that very secret of true spiritual knowledge, awakening, alchemy, transformation, is always concealed. And so before one gets to that, one is to be tested through one's own limitations, I would say. So when we think that there are some powers that test us, or some higher beings, it is not so, because we're not supposed to live under some sort of a radar. And yet that which registers our corruption is our own consciousness. And the whole point of life is for this consciousness to observe itself through the limited body, and to refine itself by awakening to itself, and by recognizing the internal limitations that have been created through the path, or through the down cycle, through the cycle of crystallizing into this dimension. And so many people are truly aspiring at knowing, and yet for some reason this knowledge still remains unknown for them, unattainable. And they get frustrated, they get angry, they're in pain. Their bodies, the result of their unrefined selves, their unaddressed pain, trauma, and corruption. So when we look at spirituality from the external point of view, we search for spiritual wisdom and knowledge and truth in the projected reality, we will never find it. And this is it. Because whatever your body does or doesn't do is not that of a subtle being. Yes, your consciousness rules the body. The consciousness is the root and the body is the fruit. But when you're trying to manipulate your body or logically set some kind of discipline, routine for yourself, diet, it's just the same as you would choose to jog or dance or do whatever. The health and the condition of the body in general is the reflection of consciousness. That's what the majority of people don't understand. So they start making physical actions in the name of spirituality, or so-called spiritual actions, in search of the truth, which is of the subtle nature, which is not of the projected reality nature, which is not of the bodily nature. The projected reality itself, the body itself, is the fruit of that consciousness. And the way you process that consciousness, or whatever is there, through your own mind, which is the bridge between the consciousness and the physical realm. And so this physical realm is the reflection of that which is consciousness. So how can you fool that which is consciousness? How can you gain something when karma itself is that distortion and corruption within consciousness that creates the body. So the body becomes the vessel of karma. And this is the true knowledge. So that's why all the masters, the true masters, which are unknown in their majority, I would say completely unknown, which are truly realized and evolved beings, because those which are known are not of that kind. Yes, there are lots of people who attempted and a little bit tasted bliss, a little bit tasted awakening, and proclaimed themselves saints, proclaimed themselves to be holy beings, yogis, enlightened beings. They went such. That's why their following is the following of goats and sheeple that doesn't know anything about spirituality. They wrote a lot of books which contain no essence, because those books emanate nothing. They are not the crystallized transmission of the higher consciousness. They're just bookish knowledge, retold stories. And so at this point of time, we are to awaken to the fact that we don't know anything. Because without this awakening, there's no evolution. There is no evolution. There is no realization. And all people do is fool themselves, wind up their spiritual narcissism, fall into the traps of their limited selves, their egos, in the name of spirituality, intoxicate themselves in search of truth, in search of supernatural, and yet end up in mental hospitals, psychotic, or deluded by someone, manipulated and exploited by someone. So where is the truth? And the truth is in your own consciousness, because the true refinement happens only through absorption, not by twisting your body, not by having a good diet. Well, that is your choice. That is your choice. That will only support you to a degree. If you're spending a lot of time breathing fresh air, having sunlight, or being exposed to sunlight, it will all be beneficial to your health, to your well-being. But the consciousness will still be drained, and thus the aging in the body will happen. You cannot stop it. Your body has to heal, and the true healing happens when there is healing and dissolution of corruption within consciousness. So this is the secret. Very simple, but very difficult, because to face own ego, to face own corruption, to face own darkness and shadows is but a very difficult task, very tedious work. It takes time, it takes dedication, and it is unpleasant, to say the least. So that's why people run into these easy fixes and solutions. Okay, I'll rather take drugs, I'll rather take plant medicine in the name of spirituality, I'll twist my body for 5, 10, 24 hours, and yet what is the result? Zero. Zero in the context of spiritual evolution. I'll run to this teacher, to that teacher. There are no teachers. There are eternal students which attempt to refine themselves. These beings may offer an example. To a degree, they manage to refine themselves. And if they did refine themselves, their body has to be the emanation of that refinement. Their body has to be the emanation of that powerful spiritual frequency and radiation. All this nonsense about teachers taking someone else's karma, you cannot take someone else's consciousness and fit it in your body. You can connect and establish connections with someone else's sick, unhealed, traumatized consciousness and allow that negative energy to travel to you, but then you're not a master. You're a fool who is trying to play a healer, who is trying to help someone prematurely without being healed themselves, without being transformed and refined themselves. Trying to teach someone without having faced time, transformation, and death. True death is the dissolution of corruption and limitations. So what are you talking about? What refinement and spiritual progress are you talking about? It's easy to be a foolish clown in this day and age and fool others through the external attire, through the elements of external reality, making spiritual business. But the truth remains concealed. And the truth is that the majority die like dogs. Because if they were transformed, they wouldn't die like dogs. And this is the reality of this life. If you refuse to face your own baggage, to face your own corruption, which is so simple and so painful, but it is the only way to refine and evolve, you will run into illusions of this world. In the name of spirituality, looking for spiritual solutions or whatever solutions, just to avoid another painful moment. It means you're not fit. You're not a real spiritual student or adept, because those who are afraid of facing themselves, being in that pain, being face to face with that higher frequency and their own shadow at the same time, they're not fit for any spiritual true path. And there's only one path anyways, which is the path of the higher frequency, which is like a sword of light that penetrates the darkness. And once it penetrates, it cuts, it reveals pain, the pain of own limitation. Because once you're trying to break through the prison, the limitation, you have to exhibit power. And when you exhibit power and resistance, it hurts. And without that, there's no evolution. Many people on YouTube ask me a question about my personal story. There's no personal story. Eventually, all the stories get dissolved. Your body is the fruit. And those who are trying to object it will find themselves in the outskirts of this projected reality. Because those who face themselves, whose friends are time and death by your side, they become immortal. They are the emanation of light and truth that hurts. And that hurt, that pain has to be faced if you are truly to walk the same path. But the path is very narrow and not for everyone. And I hope that this answer gives you more clarity and simplifies your existence, because usually people tend to complicate their existence in the name of spirituality. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this sadhana. You are in the time of demonic spirituality, where all the actions, spiritual actions, target lower frequency, lower realms, and lower spiritual entities, demonic entities, which have been employed for the past 10,000 years in order to manipulate this projected reality. True spiritual seekers do not seek to manipulate this projected reality. They want to be above. They want to hold on to that higher frequency within themselves, which is unconditioned, instead of being more and more tangled with the projected reality in whichever name, in the name of power, fame, money, or manipulation. So when you're on a truly spiritual path, which I would doubt for the majority of people, question your motives, because your motives will define your corruption, and they will make you understand, are you truly following the path of purity, the path of true refinement, and the path of the higher being, or you're fooling yourselves and playing with the fire, trying to connect with something you are not aware of, or being misled by someone and trying to manipulate this projected reality in order to gain something. Well, the gain is not the target of the higher being, of the soul that is beyond the projection. The gain is the target of a corrupt soul and corrupt being, ego. And so this should tell you where you stand and where you're at. And it's never late to shift, awaken to the truth, even if it hurts, and to refocus. Focus within so that you can start this journey now. And it doesn't even matter how many lifetimes you spend refining yourself, as long as you're holding on to that higher frequency and are dedicated to that unconditional being, it will pull you out of the misery and of the self-imposed limitations and corruptions, eventually to the inner knowing, to purity, and to the expansion, where you will understand what is the truth and what is falsehood. Thank you very much.